that stuff to them. And then when Deanna found out that we had bought them stuff, after we left, they had a big, a big meeting, and she confronted them and was demanding the stuff back that we had bought them. Left, and we found this out the next morning.
Oh,
we're getting ready to leave, and it was from. We felt it all. The big red flag came up the morning that we left, because when we had left our trucks and our trailers with the equipment, we had left one of the trucks, the 2 trailers, and 2 pieces of equipment at the village, because we were staying off of that property. And we had told them, we'd be back in the morning to get the stuff before we came back home. And when we got there to load to hook up the trailers and stuff, we just felt like there was this tension in the air. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was so strong. Mm-hmm. Yeah, nobody came up from their tents, and they would look up and stuff, and you could tell they wanted to come up there because, like I said, we'd worked with them for 2.5 days. Mm-hmm. And even though we weren't supposed to be talking, it's kind of hard to not talk to people when you're working alongside.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be awkward.
And we did. I mean, we still talk to them anyways. And
when you were working with them, prior to Ronnie and Debbie telling them that they shouldn't talk to you, had they told you they couldn't?
Offside of them, like I said, a couple of the women were talking to one of the ladies, the tent resident, and they had their phones out, and he saw them, and he went up to them and said that they weren't allowed to be in contact with us.
Wow.
And we were just like, are you kidding? This is why we came here.
Did it seem like when you were working with them, did it seem like they felt like they should, were they a little bit quiet or hesitant to talk to you?
Yeah, they were quiet and very reserved. And, we were like, we came here to love on you people and show you that we care about you. That's why we're here. We're not and like I said, they didn't want anything. None of them asked for anything, but we had already made our minds up before we went. We're going to do that for these people.
That's what I do. I mean,
And we were just like, wow, that is you're preaching this, and everything. And then we're trying to show it and you're not allowing it.
Yeah, that's crazy. So then when you guys were going to leave that day, what were you saying? That they wouldn't come out of the tents?
Let's see, that was on Monday morning. We were there hooking up. The guys got out to hook up the trailers and equipment to the trucks. And we had, we were wanting to say goodbye to them. I mean, I know we weren't supposed to be in contact, but it was kind of hard when you went there. We had money.
Slip them something, maybe.
Yeah,
grandma.
Some money. Yeah.
You were trying to slip them something, maybe, on the slide.
We had some money left over that we hadn't used because we had money. We had used money for when we demoed the mobile home and hauled it to the landfill.
Right.
We paid for having that done, and then when they would come back, they would bring mulch in that we put down, and then we had rock delivered to put down, and
we bought tools and stuff. And
Yeah.
we just had a little extra cash left over. We was going to give the three of them that worked the hardest, we was going to give them a little something, you know, just for they'd have a little money. That if they needed something small, they'd have
Right.
one to slip them a little bit of money, you know. So it was like, they, you know, one of them wouldn't come out for 10, and he was acting real sheepish and stuff, and so it was real weird. And like I say, he finally slipped up there, but he was very
Cautious.
yeah.
Yeah, he wanted to come up. I know he wanted to come up and say goodbye to us, because they told us, they were like, you guys were the best bunch of people that have came here, and you guys accomplished so much, and they were so grateful for what we had done and stuff. And they thought you guys are really genuine people, you know, and they thanked us, and the thing is that the female and a male that were there that worked, they had both told us that how much they appreciated us, and that we had been the best group of workers they'd had that got so much accomplished. And they had told us that they weren't together when they told us that. They had told us that separately. And it made us feel good to know, you know, and we could tell because we had a bond with them.
Yeah.
You know, had a bond with us. And it was so hard knowing, you know, you're not supposed to be communicating with these people. And that's why we went there. And so, anyway, that morning, we all rode back in one truck, and we were discussing. We says, hey, we got this amount of money left over. What are we going to do with it? So we decided, we said, okay, we're going to give them, Deanna and Ronnie, $800 in cash, and we're going to tell them to finish the job that we were doing. We had moved and set, after we tore down the mobile home, hauled it to the dump, and cleared more trees and brush. We leveled the ground, we put gravel down, leveled it, and we moved and set the bathhouse. Well, we also dug the water line in. We went and bought the water, the pipe and the fittings to hook up the bathhouse. And we had it all set. And
You guys built the place, basically.
Yeah.
The plumber was supposed to be there the next day and finish hooking it up. And I don't know, you know, Ronnie said things would be taken care of. They get hooked up, they get the gravel, where they can put gravel up to the rest of the tent and skid steer and finish putting the gravel up to the rest of the tents where they didn't have to walk in the mud. And then there was somebody had donated a load before we got there. They had it up there by their trailer where they was going to make a bigger turnaround where they was at where they stayed up there, and where they had the supply trailer where they bring the supplies in.
the storage trailer.
Yeah. Ronnie kept asking me, they had all this brush pile where he had a skid steer there before, and he had a big pile of brush. And he kept wanting me to pull off and clean it and doing that work and hauling this brush up to the road. Because the people are coming through, and if they got the brush by the road, they'll pick it up free.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, we didn't come here to haul brush. We come here to get the bathhouse set up.
Yeah. Shower's more important.
So I said, that's what I come for, to help people. That brush can wait. I said, you know, that's no big deal. It was back out of the way. You know, wouldn't hurt anything. But he was worried about that brush all along. And then we finally got after we left, what the guy told one of them that they think they took the money and got a backhoe or something, and they were moving the brush up to the highway, up to the county road, instead of putting the rock around the tents and stuff.
Hmm.
And they said the brush is still sitting there, and the bathhouse is still not hooked up, and that's been 4 weeks.
Jeez.
Yeah, I don't think the gravel is down.
No,
I don't,
yeah.
Goes back to when we handed him $800 and said, okay, because we didn't get to finish because Sunday, we were working on Sunday and we couldn't get the rest of the rock because they were closed. And we were leaving early Monday morning. So we said, here, we're giving you $800. We want you to go get a load of rock. We want you to rent a skid steer, finish the job that we were doing, get the rock around their tents so they don't have to track in that red dirt and mud into their tents. And we said, all we ask is that you get us a receipt because we took money, our church missions gave us money to bring here and we want to be accountable for the money.
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
He said, no problem. And he said, I probably need to get some fuel for my truck. And we said, that's fine because he had been using the truck and trailer hauling back and forth to the landfill. And we said, that's fine, but get us the receipt. Well, we found out after we left, and we were there. Me and the girls just went back this past Monday for a whole nother situation that's came out of this. But when we went back, we were there. We came back to North Carolina on Monday, and we were at the village, and no, they did not get the rock that we asked them to get. We didn't get a receipt for it because they didn't get it.
No.
I texted her and asked, and she called me. She told me she would get me the receipt, and she never did. And she can't do it because they didn't get the
Right, there's no receipt to give.
Right.
One of the residents there told us that they did not get the rock.
Wow.
And so,
When you guys left that morning and nobody wanted to come out of their tents, were you even able to say goodbye to them?
oh, that's where the big red flag went up, and we knew something, okay. Well, one of the residents did end up coming up to where we were at, and the other women, there were 3 women, 2 men on our trip, and so the other 2 women asked where the female resident that we had been working with, and we had gotten to really, she tugged at all of our. I mean, she is such a sweet lady, such a smart lady that has had so many issues, and we asked the male resident where she was at, or if he could go get her and bring her up to say goodbye. And he said it would be best if you went to her tent. So the other 2 women went down to her tent to say goodbye and pray with her before we left. And when they went to her tent, they knocked on her, her tent and said her name and said she wouldn't come out. She stuck her head out and she was crying.
Wow.
And they basically just grabbed her and kind of pulled her out. And she had informed them that when we had left on Sunday afternoon, that they got into it with them. They asked them that the things that we had bought them, they were demanding those things from them.
Oh.
And so she's, these 2 women on our trips down there, and this resident is telling them, she's crying, she's upset, she's afraid that she's going to get kicked out from the village and be out on the streets, not have any place to go, because she had broken the rules and connected with us and was communicating with us, and that we had given them stuff and they wanted it back, and that basically they may not, have a place there, and she was scared she was going to get kicked out.
Oh.
And then at the same time, I was standing at the top of the hill where the male resident had had managed to work his way up there, and we pulled him to the side and was talking to him, and he told us the same story that she was telling the women.
Oh.
Nevada, like outside of her tent, that something had went down after we left the day before, and that they belittled them in front of the whole group of everybody there, and like scolded them, and they were both upset because they thought that either one or both of them was going to be having to leave the village.
Oh my God.
He left so upset, thinking, oh my gosh, they are going to get kicked out because we were here and they connected with us. We were just.
That's a horrible way to feel, because you're feeling guilty for doing something good. So that's kind of a strange.
Like, oh my gosh, they're preaching. They're going against the grain of what they're preaching on their Facebook and on their videos.
Oh, that's something I should ask before I forget. Were they preaching at all?
Yeah, they have church. Was there church when you guys were there?
No.
No preaching, just real
praying. And we actually, when we went, we mostly took work clothes because we knew we were going to be in for 3 days. So we all took our work clothes, and we said, should we take, some better clothes in case we go to church with them? Because we're thinking, with everything they're portraying on their Facebook stuff, like they're sisters in Christ, and, they're helping the people, blah, blah, blah. And we're thinking on Sunday, we thought, well, we'll probably go to church with them or something. So we all took a little bit better clothes in case we went to church on Sunday. Not one thing was said about going to church.
Wow.
So we just ended up going Sunday morning and working like we did on Friday and Saturday.
Huh.
So we worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and not one thing. The only thing they would do is we would stop and eat lunch. We did all eat lunch together, out by the trailer, and he would pray before that. He prayed when we got ready to come home. But Deanna, this is another thing. That morning that we were leaving, Ronnie came out of the trailer and was talking to us, saying goodbye, and he was helping with the guys hooking up the trailers and the equipment. And we thought, well, it's really strange. Deanna didn't come out of the camper, but he tells us that she had a doctor's appointment at 11 o'clock. Well, this was between 8 and 8:30 in the morning. And we thought, okay, we drove 10 hours. We brought all of our resources. We brought money. We worked for 3 days and helping. And at least you could have the decency to come out and tell us goodbye and see us off.
Right.
And she's never seen one thing out of her.
Wow.
Left.
That's pretty inconsiderate.
Like I said, there was so much tension in the air when we pulled in there that morning and got out, and with the residents and Deanna not coming out, it was like, whoa.
This goes back to just the beginning. Just out of curiosity, did they ever tell you, either Ronnie and Debbie or the residents, did they ever tell you what their program was? Because, you went into it and they said it was transitional. They tell you what people had to do to graduate or whatever?
Yeah, she told us that, she brought people, that there were people there, all different, from abuse to, whatever situation you could be in, but she said that everybody was drug tested, which threw up a red flag to me because, and it did all, we were taught, the women were all talking, and the men were all unhooking the trailers when we first got there. So all the women were talking. It was just telling us that, it's drug free. She drug tests everybody. And the way she talked about the drug testing, I'm thinking, well, I really don't know much about drug testing or anything, but I'm thinking I would think that would be pretty expensive. And
yeah.
And how do you do that or whatever, which we didn't ask her, but we later found out from the residents that know they do not get drug tested like she told us that they do. And they had at least two of the people had been there for almost 2 months, and they had been drug tested. I forget what she said, but she said that one time there was like, I don't know if she said 13. I forget. There was either like 10 or 15 that got drug tested, and only 3 of them passed the drug test.
Wow.
Huh.
Now, see, from talking to her, I just remember this because I edited the video earlier. She said just about everybody who failed was because they were just brought in. So the drugs are still in their system because they weren't allowed to leave the camp. So there wasn't any way for them to actually get drugs.
Yeah, that came from the resident that,
Yeah, I can also tell you this, that as we were leaving, I've said something about the bicycles, and the other women said, oh, they can't ride those bicycles even out on the road. And I'm like, what? You got to be kidding me. I said, they can't even get exercise and ride their bicycles out on the road. and honestly, and we said to ourselves, they're like imprisoned slaves.
Yeah.
Sure sounds that way.
They were, especially there was one male and one female that were like she called the one what'd she say, house person?
House.
Because they were going to go to dinner with us. And we said, well, can you leave? Or, and she said, oh yeah, she said her name, and she said she's my house person. Like, she takes care of things whenever they weren't there. And then we also noticed that the male, everything that needed done, she would call for him, do this, do that, do this, that. And